end of chapter 25, and Wish is talking to her mother very warily. She's just woken her up. "Good morning, Mother," gulped Wish warily. "The wizard boy has gone," said Queen Sycorax in a white, cold fury, taking in the scratches on Wish's face, the wildness of Wish's hair, which, like Queen Sycorax's own hair, was still whipped up into a frenzy at the tangles by the sprites using it as a nest. "Escaping with all the other magic creatures. Chaos, disorder, anarchy. The stone takes away magic is broken." "And I've lost the sword as well," stormed Sycorax. "It's trapped in the stone, so it is at a time when it is needed most, when witches have returned to the forest. It's an all-round disaster. Someone must have stolen my key. Someone must have helped that wretched wizard boy escape. Someone must have taken him the sword. The someone who has done this is a traitor to their mother, their family, their entire tribe of warriors." Wish avoided her mother's angry gaze and looked thoughtfully into the distance. "I just had this very strange dream," said Wish. "I dreamed there was a witch inside the stone that takes away magic, that calls itself the King Witch." Sycorax started in astonishment. Her anger evaporated and turned to uneasy alarm. "A King Witch inside the stone?" gasped the Queen. "What nonsense are you talking? Impossible." "Surely that's impossible." But if witches were not extinct, that meant that the legends about the King Witch might be correct as well. In all the old fairy tales, the King Witch was the leader of the witches, the mastermind who controlled them all. In my dream, the King Witch had been inside the stone for a very long time. "So indeed," said Wish. "Who knows? Maybe someone long ago imprisoned him in there to make the world a safer place," said Wish. "The fairy stories about the stone always say not to touch it, don't they? But the meaning of why we are not supposed to touch it has been lost. Centuries and centuries that King Wish must have been willing people to come to the stone so he could take away their magic and break out. And he will have been working his will on you too, Mother, on me, on Tsar, on all of us. In my dream, the King Witch broke out of the stone." "No," whispered Sycorax, with fierce bright eyes, but she was thinking hard. Wish could sense her mother weakening, so she carried on, speaking thoughtfully and innocently, looking dreamily into the distance. "Another odd thing in the dream," continued Wish, "was that in the dungeons below us was this room which was full of heads. But they weren't just any old heads. They were heads that I recognised, of people that came to court and argued on your behalf, Mother, or said nice things about you when you were away. I'm not sure we would want the citizens of Warrior Fort to know about those heads, Mother," said Wish. "Dreams are odd things," said Sycorax, staring at her daughter very, very closely indeed. Mother and daughter looked at each other, their faces identical masks. Behind both those masks they were thinking, "What do you know?" That's mother and daughter looking at each other, both with their hair up. For the first time, they look surprisingly alike. Hair in ridiculous upward waterfalls, faces carefully arranged to give nothing away, wary eyes. "It's complicated," said Queen Sycorax at last. "Yes, it is," said Wish. She put out her hand and closed it over Queen Sycorax's icy one. "Must be difficult being a queen," said Wish. Queen Sycorax returned the pressure. "Yes," said Queen Sycorax, "it is." "What happened to the witch inside the stone? Where is it now?" asked Queen Sycorax. "We killed it with the sword," said Wish. "In the dream, of course." Said Queen Sycorax. "You were lucky to survive." She touched her daughter's face with the scratches on it. Queen Sycorax looked down at Wish, and for one split second her mask dropped, and there was no disappointment in her eyes, but a wary respect, suspicion, and fear. Queen Sycorax would never underestimate her daughter again. Her frosty cliff of a face melted into a glint of a smile, like the sun appearing through clouds over a glacier. "Well done, Wish," said Queen Sycorax. "That must have been a very frightening dream, a nightmare, in fact, and it sounds like you have dealt with it in an extremely warrior-like fashion." Wish was so relieved she beamed right back at her. "My mother smiled at me." Queen Sycorax's smile disappeared, and she was her brisk, composed self once more. She adjusted Wish's eye patch, which had gone a little askew. "I may have made a mistake about that stone," admitted Queen Sycorax. "Every queen makes mistakes." sometimes. So in these very special circumstances, I'm prepared to overlook whatever happened this past night. Queen Sycorax's voice turned diamond hard. But in the future, you need to do as I tell you. I want you to have no contact with anything magic whatsoever. No wizards, no magic creatures, not even the smallest itch sprite. Do you understand me, Wish? Yes, Mother, said Wish. And if you see that wretched, tricksome Tsar, son of Encanzo, said the Queen, you must tell me at once. You hear me? Yes, Mother, said Wish. But underneath the bedclothes, I'm afraid to say, I happen to know that Wish was crossing her fingers. From now on, Wish, you must work hard at being a normal warrior princess. Actually, that's Wish saying my mother smiled at me to her spoon. You must work hard on being a normal warrior princess. You can start by keeping this eye patch on at all times, nice and straight. Remember, said Queen Sycorax sternly as she got to her feet. We are warriors. She held up her finger. And a warrior should always be well turned out, said Queen Sycorax. Every hair in place, every weapon sharpened, every fingernail shining. Remember that. And then she swept out of Wish's front door, where a crowd had gathered, watching in staggered silence as Sycorax, her long white gown, raked ragged, her hair afright, swept through the courtyard with as much dignity and gravitas as if it was her own coronation. Guards scurried up to her to offer them her cloaks, and in one superb gesture, she waved them all away. Every inch a queen. Some started applauding nervously. They weren't quite sure why, and the other wizards joined in, even though they did not know, even though they did not know who they were clapping for. What had happened? Who had dared attack her? What on earth, for the green God's sake, was going on with that hair? And then Queen Sycorax turned at the entrance to her own quarters. The crowd grew silent. They leaned in to hear what she would say, expecting her to tell them the story of what exactly had happened down there in her dungeons. I never, said Queen Sycorax in her quiet, mild voice, want anyone to mention this ever again. And they didn't. Chapter 26 is called Father and Son. I think that's Sarah and Encanzo.